Our next speaker is actually coming to us virtually. Camilla Rowe. I met Camilla through a young women's online cancer support group. And it's young women from all over the world who kind of started to talk and share their experiences. And then we met her in person last year actually this year at ASCO. Camilla's an amazing young woman. She is from Los Angeles and is a wife, mother, clinical psychologist, and a stage 4 stomach cancer patient with peritoneal metastasis, or peritoneal. Her journey began in 2018 with a stage 1 diagnosis and was diagnosed with a stage 4 recurrence to the peritoneum with Krukenberg tumors in early 2022. Her advocacy includes empowering patients to have access to information and treatments and patient mentorship. And recently she has been passionately advocating for funding trials that include new and emerging treatments. You can read the rest of her bio in the booklet. So we will now just hand it over to the screen and listen to.
My name is Camilla Rowe, and I am from Los Angeles, California, and this is my family. I am also a stage 4B stomach cancer patient, and here is my story. Hi, my name is Camilla Rowe, and I am a stage 4 stomach cancer patient from Los Angeles, California. And I wanted to take this opportunity to share my story and also thank my gut feeling and Teresa Tiano for giving me this opportunity. So thank you. My story starts all the way back in 2018. By that time, I had been experiencing about 2 years of reflux pain, and I had sought out my primary care doctor, and she referred me to a gastroenterologist, or several gastroenterologists, who all believed that I was too young and didn't have the risk factors to necessitate an endoscopy, and that my insurance might not even cover such a procedure. And they put me on proton pump inhibitor medication and told me millions of people have chronic reflux for years and years and years, and this is not anything to be concerned of, and just go on and take your daily Prilosec and you should be fine. They also told me to make lifestyle changes like drink less coffee, don't eat salty, don't eat spicy, raise the head of my bed. But none of these measures really gave me any relief. And sometimes I was in tears crying because I had such bad heartburn. But my third referral to a GI doctor led to an endoscopy. So the endoscopy was completed, and the pathology from the endoscopy came back highly concerning for malignancy. And they ordered a repeat endoscopy right away, which confirmed that I had poorly differentiated gastric adenocarcinoma. I was in shock. I wasn't even aware you could get cancer of the stomach, even though now I know that Asian Americans and Asians in general are a high-risk group. But at the time, I wasn't aware. There was no family history of stomach cancer in my family. I was healthy. I weight trained. I ate a variety of foods. I made a conscientious effort to not drink, not smoke, and just try to live a healthy life. My children were 3 and 5 at the time, and I was a busy mom. This was such a devastating, life-changing diagnosis. not just for me, but for my entire family, my parents, my brother, my poor husband, my kids. I was extremely lucky though. All the testing, the endoscopic ultrasound, the CT scan, everything showed that it was very early. They staged me at 1A and sent me to surgery to have my entire stomach removed, even though what they were looking at was a 1.9 centimeter flattened lesion that was only in the first layer of the stomach. So I went to get my stomach removed, and when the pathology report came back, I had 2 local notes positive, which upstaged me into stage 1B. Still extremely lucky. My team was so excited, but they recommended that I do post-operative chemotherapy to mop up any loose cells that might be floating around, and I did. And a steep learning curve of relearning how to eat, how to digest, how to plan my day around having multiple snacks, having the bathroom ready, having all my medication ready, and learning about the nutritional supplements I would need, what nutrients I would need infusions or injections for, like B12 or iron for some patients. And I went back to trying to enjoy my life and forget about this cancer experience. Never spoke out about it, never told anyone other than my immediate family and close friends. My stomach cancer treatment for stage 1B disease took course over the summer. So in the fall, when I returned to take my kids to school, people just asked me, wow, you look great. Did you go on a diet? Did you lose weight over the summer? What did you do? And for some, it was just such a shock to say that I had stomach cancer, and a shock for myself to even hear that very fact. But life returned to, well, actually life never returned to normal, but we found our new normal in the midst of COVID. And also I was able to enjoy 3.5 years of no disease. And I went and did my regular surveillance. Every 6 months, I got a CT scan. Every 3 months, we checked all my blood work and my markers. And in 2020, I heard about a test that would monitor circulating tumor DNA or ctDNA. And the test was Signatera. And I signed up to be in one of their patient programs and had a string of negatives, because what it does is measure the amount of circulating tumor DNA in the blood. Like I said, I had a couple negatives, and then in the summer of 2021, my Signatera popped up positive. Very, very minimal, low level, but it was positive, and it scared me. I was in a panic. My oncologist ordered a repeat Signatera right away to make sure that we weren't looking at a false positive. And then he ordered all the tests, CT, PET, endoscopy. Everything came back normal, and we couldn't find the source of where the ctDNA, these microscopic cancer cells, were shedding from. And so we waited and waited, and in December of 2021, when I was having a routine 6-month CT scan, and at that point it had been about 3.5 years since my original diagnosis, they found bilateral tissue masses on my ovaries, and we were able to biopsy them, and they came back positive for gastric adenocarcinoma, and I had what is known as Krukenberg tumors on my ovaries. And so in that instant, I knew. I had already known because I had that positive signature test that something was coming. But in that moment in December, I knew that I had gone from being a stage 1 survivor to now a stage 4 patient. I knew in the back of my mind that if I was going to have a reoccurrence, it would be an automatic stage 4 situation because I had a complete gastrectomy and I no longer had my original organ, which means cancer could only come back elsewhere. And it did, and for me, it was my peritoneum. Again, I got so lucky because once they confirmed that those were indeed Krukenberg tumors on my ovaries, on a Wednesday, I was in surgery Friday to have them removed. I was lucky enough to meet a very young, aggressive, dynamic gynonc who was gynecological oncologist who was willing to remove them. And I know this doesn't happen for all patients with Krukenberg tumors, but mine were found, again, pretty small. I had known something was coming because of my positive Signatera tests, and she successfully removed the Krukenberg tumors, ovaries and fallopian tubes, all with clear margins, and she did not see anything else out of the ordinary in my peritoneum or pelvis. So I had a little bit of comfort in knowing that that cancer was removed, and at that time it seemed limited to the Krukenberg tumors. And I started looking for HIPEC surgeons because I knew that I needed to incorporate the strategy in order to improve my chances of survival. And it was very hard to find. I did consult with several surgeons, and most of the time I heard, well, why don't you start your chemotherapy and we'll reevaluate, we'll revisit this HIPEC thing after you've done a few rounds, 6 rounds, 8 rounds. And I knew that I had a window of opportunity before I started chemotherapy to get a HIPEC in. I was not able to find someone who would clear me for that, but I did find Dr. Wu, who eventually went on to work with me, and another oncologist who would eventually have to approve. And I dug down my heels and said, I will get HIPEC, but I will start your chemotherapy, which I did. And I started FLOT chemotherapy in March of 2022. So during the months that I had to do chemotherapy prior to my HIPEC removal, I just dove myself into the research and the data. I started trying to find patients who had had some good success with regional therapy, specifically HIPEC. And I also wanted to see the data because I knew the data was mixed. And in doing so, I felt like I was empowering myself. I started to ask questions that stumped some professionals, some experts. And I also wanted to have a healthy debate with the doctors I would consult with. I think it's so important that you trust your team. You have to trust that your surgeon, your oncologist, whoever your support network is really, in your minds, trustworthy. You are entrusting these people with your life. And though I make the final decisions, I have to feel that I'm confident, that I'm doing the right thing, and I've done my due diligence. So after 4 rounds of chemotherapy, I was approved for HIPEC. And in June 2022, I received my first laparoscopic HIPEC. I had a low PCI, which made me a great candidate. And I think that's what made the difference for me and for patients who do get some benefit out of these regional therapies, is that you have to be the right candidate, and your disease has to have limited spread and well controlled before the regional therapy could be added in. I do want to say HIPEC is in no way a replacement for systemic chemo. I really believe that it's an advantage. And when I'm looking at treatment strategies, I want to look at it from a three-pronged approach, or a trifecta, treatment trifecta, if you want to call it that. And this past August, I had a few new tiny pelvic spots pop up on my peritoneal lining, which was resected, but I am opting to go aggressive again, and I have started systemic chemotherapy, and I'm doing FOLFIRI. I've just gotten through my second round last week. Have lost a significant amount of hair, but otherwise doing really well and managing my stage 4 disease like a serious chronic condition at this point. My treatments have allowed my cancer to be controlled in a way that I haven't had any serious complications from any of my treatments or surgeries, and I'm doing relatively well in keeping up with my busy 9 and 11-year-olds' lives. I feel very functional, and I'm just so blessed and so grateful that I have had the opportunity to access this information, which allowed me to prolong my life. I truly believe that I have had the best of circumstances. I was diagnosed at an early stage and got the proper treatment. Although I did recur, I had such good timing and I was able to assemble such a supportive and wonderful team that I just want to share the word, share the encouragement, and share any bits of information I learn with the patient and caregiver community. So that's why I share my story now as a stage 4 patient. And I went into this having no knowledge, having no biomarkers, and knowing that I may only have one opportunity to get it right. And have I gotten it right? That I don't know, because we don't know what's going to happen in the end. But I remain hopeful, because I do know now that the survival rate is about 6%. And I always tell myself I could very well be one of those. So for anybody starting their journey on this journey, feeling like they're so done with this journey, I know that every day brings the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. I can tell you that I try to get through the day one step at a time, hour by hour. I also try to remain as active as I can. And when I say active, I don't necessarily mean doing exercise, which I try to do, but I am very, very involved in my children's lives. I am there at every teacher's conference, at almost every single soccer practice and game, unless I'm feeling sick from chemo or surgery. And we are very, very involved in other things besides cancer. And that has helped tremendously. And the other thing that's helped me is to just stay very, very involved in the stomach cancer community. I derive so much support from the patient advocacy nonprofit groups and speaking out about early screening and high risk. speaking about access to treatment and having patients feel more empowered and have a say in carving out their treatment plan and treatment strategy. The other piece of advice I have is to hold on to something bigger and stronger than yourself mentally. I try to practice a lot of gratitude. I am spiritual, and I do use that a lot as a coping strategy. Some people use exercise, some people use other things, but all in all, it's whatever works for you, whatever can give you a break from the weight, the heaviness of our diagnosis and situation. So with that, I just want to thank you again for listening to my story, and thank you again to Teresa and MGF for giving me this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Camilla, thank you so much for sharing your story. Hopefully you're watching us from California on the live stream today. I wish you can see the faces here in the audience and how much power your story has and how inspirational it is to learn from you. So thank you so much for that presentation.